Hi everyone, so today I want to show you how I made this card, and this is a Hexagonal Bendi 6-way tower card. Bit of a mouthful, I know, but just going on from the 4-way card that I made the other day, this one, I just quite liked it and I thought, oh, I could do a different version of that. So yeah, so that's the 4-way, and then this is the 6-way, and obviously you can see why, because this has got 6 little flaps and this one's got 4. I don't know if you call them flaps, but anyway. The other difference as well is that this one is slightly smaller. So this is actually done on a 6x6. This is done on a 5x6. So you've got an extra inch in height. This one looks more kind of, it actually looks more even. It looks more kind of square, and it isn't. This looks like it's rectangular, but it's actually not. It's actually 6 inches by 6 inches. So it's a bit weird, but it is. So that's 6 inches by 6 inches, just to prove that it is actually 6x6. It doesn't look 6x6, but it is. It's just quite nice. It's a nice card. It folds down flat. You have to make sure you don't use too thick a card, otherwise it's going to be very chunky to put through the post. But it does fold down flat like that. Just flatten it like that, and it fits in an envelope for a 6x6 card. So yeah, so it's really good. So let's get into it. Okay, so for this card, you're going to need similar kind of pieces to what we used for the Hexagonal Bendi 4-way tower card, but just slightly different size. I thought I'd make it a little bit easier. So instead of doing 5x6 for the base cards, I've actually done 6x6. So you need 6 pieces of 6x6 base card. And again, I wouldn't go too thick. This card that I'm using here, again, is about a 200 GSM, possibly a 220. But you really don't want to go too much because it just will end up very, very thick. And so what you want to do is you want to get your scoreboard and score all of them, all 6 of them, at 3 inches, just on one, doesn't matter which side, on one side. Score all of them at 3 inches, okay? And then, so I've got that score line as a vertical, okay? And then with that vertically, with your score line vertically, you then want to go across from the score line, and you're going to go across 1.5 inches and make a mark, and then 1.5 inches this way and make a mark. Okay, so then that gap there between the 2 marks should be 3 inches, and you want to do the same at the bottom. So again, come in. I usually put my ruler at 1.5, so the 1.5 is where the score line is, and then mark at 0, mark at 3. So you're basically doing 1.5 inches that way and 1.5 inches that way. And then down the sides, you just want to mark halfway at 3 inches and at 3 inches. And then all you're going to do is you're just going to, again, like we did before, is join these lines up to make your hexagon. And it's going to be, it's not an even hexagon, this one. It's kind of more of a rough hexagon, but it's fine for the card. It's fine, and it actually, I quite like it because it kind of gives it a very elegant look, because it's quite a kind of almost elongated hexagon. So you should end up with that, and then all you're going to do is, like we did before, just cut those triangles off. Okay, so if you have any pencil marks left, then just go ahead and rub those out. And then what I did because I cut out these prior, because I just thought you guys don't want to watch me cut out 6 hexagons, is I actually did one and then laid it on top of, I just laid it on top of the other panels and then drew round it and cut it. So save, keep measuring all the time. So these should be, hopefully, these should be pretty much all the same. So you should end up with 6 hexagonal pieces. I actually, with the others, I actually took one, measured it all out, and then just laid it on top of each of the other 6x6 squares and just drew round it to save, keep measuring it. It does make it a little bit easier. So you end up with 6 pieces like that, all identical pretty much. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of variation, obviously because it's handmade, but pretty much the same. So when we did the 4-way Hexagonal Bendi card, you can either put, like we said before, you can either put the pattern paper on before you stick it all together or after. I'm going to put this on before, and then assemble it accordingly, because I just think it's a little bit easier to stick it on beforehand. So what you're going to need is you're going to need some pattern paper, and again I've gone for 2 patterns. I could have gone for 3 patterns actually, but I actually went for 2 on this one. Ignore these because these are pre-done, and this is kind of pre-done. So you basically need 3 squares that are 5.5 by 5.5. And what you want to do before you start cutting any corners off is you want to find halfway at 2 3/4. And what I would advise that you do, this is what I did, I made myself a little card template. So this was a 5.5 by 5.5 square of just, you know, sort of thin scrap card. And so what I did was I found halfway at 2 3/4, and then found halfway at 2 3/4 there, and just drew a line down the middle, which obviously I then ended up cutting. And then I ended up measuring from the outside of the, well, you find halfway here, so 2 3/4 on the sides as well, like we did with the main template. So you find 2 3/4 at the sides, and then what I would do is then measure in, if you want you can draw a line because it is a template, just draw a line across between those two, you know, 2 halfway marks, and then you just want to come in by 1 3/8. So from this edge 1 3/8, and from this edge 1 3/8, and then basically, in fact you can do it at the top, from the top corner 1 3/8, 1 3/8, 1 3/8, 1 3/8, and those are your little marks, okay, here. So then all you need to do is join your 1 3/8 mark from the right coming in up with your side, and the same here and the same there. So you're cutting out your hexagon again. So it's literally the same as what we've just done on this one, but it's just your measurements are different. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just going to quickly go through that again just to make sure, because I feel like I've been a bit confusing. So imagine this is 5.5 by 5.5. It's not, but imagine it is. Okay, move this out of the way. So imagine that's 5.5 by 5.5. You find halfway at 2 3/4, make a mark. 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 Draw a line from here all the way down to here. Okay, so that's, you've already got a line there. You will cut down that line after you've done the other marks. Then you're going to come from the top corner and you're going to measure in 1 3/8 and make a mark. Measure in 1 3/8 and make a mark. And then just draw a line from that mark to the 2 3/4 mark, from this mark to the 2 3/4 mark. Repeat the whole process again on the bottom. So come in 1 3/8 and then join that up to that mark. Come in here 1 3/8 and join that up to that mark. Okay, so then you will end up with basically your hexagonal shape. And then what you want to do is obviously just cut down the middle line and then cut your corners off, and you'll end up with these 2 pattern pieces. So that then helps you, because then if you cut yourself out, well, you know what I did, because I didn't want to waste pattern paper. So I literally, and also because these sheets are 8 by 8, these sheets of paper. So what I did was I actually just turned them over and just laid that, as you can see, this is the template before I cut it in half, and just laid it on. In fact, no, actually I did actually cut these in half. I had the 2 halves because I knew that's what I wanted. So I've actually laid that onto a big sheet, put that on the other side, drawn around it, and then drawn down the center line so I know where it is, cut it out, and then where I could maybe fit, you know, I might be able to fit, I don't know, this on here, for example, and get a bit more out of my pattern paper. So rather than cutting out a square of your pattern paper, I actually found the template saved me paper. So I used way less paper than I would have done, pattern paper, than I would have done if I'd have cut out squares and done each hexagon, you know. So actually cutting yourself a template out is better. So you want to do that with 6 pieces in total. So I went 3 pieces of pattern A, and there's my 3 pieces of pattern A. Oh, there's another one here. There we are. There's my 3 hexagons out of pattern A, and I had 3 hexagons out of pattern B. So I'm going to go ahead now, just going to finish off cutting these 2 in half, and then we're just going to go ahead and stick them on. Okay, so I've stuck them all down. Now I've realised my problem. So the problem is that these pattern pieces, my template wasn't 5.5 inches. It's 5.25 inches. So that's why some of my measurements are out, some of my lines are a bit off, etc. So I can either leave it as it is, or I could just trim a little bit off top and bottom. I think I'm going to leave it as it is, because I think trimming them off, I could end up making myself more problems. But they're not. I mean, look at that. That's horrendous. To be honest, it's quite a busy card, so I think it's quite forgiving. I'm just gonna deal with it and not worry too much. Right, so what I'm going to do now is just separate these into the two different patterns. We've got that pattern and we've got that pattern. Now I want the peachy coloured pattern to be at the front. Let me find the best panel. I think that's probably the best panel. So I'm going to make that the front. It's not the best, but I think that's probably the best panel actually. Let's go for that one. That's probably the best panel. It's the least obtrusive. So I'm going to put it face down. And I made myself a little helpful arrow, which is nice. Now this has got stripes, so you can't really see, but there is actually that's the fold line there. Okay, so about where this green stripe is, where the fold line is. So what we're going to do now is going to take, you need to either take red tape or glue. I'm using glue because I find it easier. And we're just going to tape or glue down this side. And it's literally the same way of assembling it as we did with both of the other Bendi tower cards. So I'm going to take pattern paper of the other pattern, turn it over, and then this needs to meet up with that central line. So again, it's more important that you make it line up with the center fold than the edges, because you can always trim the edges, but if it doesn't marry up in the center, you're going to be in trouble. So before, on the four-way, we obviously had a white and then a stripe and then a white and then a stripe, but we've got an extra layer, so we kind of need to go peachy white, peachy white, peachy all the way around. So I just need to work out, yeah, so okay, so what we need to do next then is we do need to do a white one here, because wherever there's a peachy, there's going to be a white next door to it. So we're going to go ahead and stick, just going to glue this other side here. And then take our other piece and again just butt it right up to that center line. And if you do kind of left and then right, that helps, because each time you're doing it, you're butting it right up to each other, right in the middle, because that is the most important thing to do. Okay, so you end up with that, which is basically what we had with the four-way one. Okay, so you end up with that. So then we're going to take a peachy one, and we're going to do the same again, and we're just going to layer it all up. I forgot to fold these in half. Oh, let's fold this in half. So we're now going to take our glue. I'm going to glue this left side. Like that. Take our peachy one and again stick it down, making sure it's right up into that middle crease. Don't worry too much about the edges, we can trim those later. So like that. Okay, and then when we're happy that that's in the right place, we can go and do the other side, and again we want to use that same pattern again, the peachy one. If you're using 3 patterns, then your the way you assemble it with your patterns will be different, but because I'm using 2 patterns, this is the way you need to assemble it. So we're going to take that, just going to check it's the right way up, it is, and then I'm going to put that in again and just butt that up with that one there. I can already see that I've got bits sticking out, edges that aren't marrying up, etc. But that's fine, we can deal with that in a bit. Okay, so then you should be left with one piece, and this is my other piece of pattern paper. So I'm just going to do what we did before, and I'm going to just, let's just make sure none of my gluey bits are stuck together. That's good. And then I'm just going to put glue over the whole of this back section, and then we're going to stick that last piece on. And again, just make sure that it's nice and married up in the middle. So I'm going to sort of stick it flat and then hold up the either side. So kind of, you can kind of stick it in like this And then just make sure it goes flat though. Now I can already feel the bulk of this card because of the weight of card that I've used, and obviously there's so many layers. You literally have so many layers. This is very thick, so this already is a card that probably will cost extra postage if I wanted to post it. So let's just open this up, just get rid of any glue strings. Now you don't know if you can see that, you might be able to see that. There's a little bit of a gap just in the middle there, but it's not enough that's going to cause a problem. The main thing to note is as long as you know it's going to fold flat, and whichever way you've stuck it, that's the way you need to fold it flat, okay? So you see my edges here, I'm just going to quickly go around and just quickly trim off these excess bits. Okay, so you're left with that, which I think is a really attractive looking card. I don't know why, it reminds me of an apple. I mean, apples aren't hexagonal, but for some reason it reminds me of an apple. I don't know why. It's just the way my brain works. So then we've got with lots of love, and also, you know, I'm going to put something on the back as well. Now, I'm just wondering if, yeah, so I'm going to do, again, like we did before, a bendy strip. I think I might use acetate this time. So I'm just going to quickly get myself a strip, and I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, so just a little tip as well. I don't know if you can see this. So this came out of a shirt collar. This is out of my son's school shirt collar, and it's just a bit of acetate. It goes around, it keeps the collar in shape. But it's a bit of acetate, and you know what? I can use that because it's quite nice and bendy. Perfect. And even this bit here with the holes in it that I might normally chuck away, I'm actually going to use that on the back of my topper because it works really well. So if I put this on, I just lay this down here, get that the right way around, about there. I can kind of get it so that, you know, I've got the, I mean, I have got holes on this side, but to be honest, you're not really going to see it, so it doesn't really bother me that much. So I'm just going to cut. Right, so now I've made a little mark. I don't know if you can see my little marks, so I know roughly where to go to. And then I'm just going to add my red tape. I have to dodge those holes in the middle, obviously. I'm going to bring my thing in, and then what we're going to do is I'm just going to find a sort of line. Here we go. This is good. So I'm just going to give that a good old go. So that's that one. Fold that back like that. It's got a bit of a rough edge there, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. And the same on this side. And obviously bear in mind the fact that you are going to, I mean, I've made this a bit wide actually. This is a bit too tall, this acetate strip. I could have done it a bit smaller, but it's fine. It'll look fine. So I'm just going to bend that around. Okay, so now I'm just going to give this a bend and curl it. Just curve it round, give it a bit of a tease so it knows it needs to be bent. That's quite stiff actually, so that's not gonna, it's not gonna bend as much as I would like it to, but it's fine. We will cope with it. Okay, and then I'm just going to add on some tape onto these tabs, and then we're going to stick it down. I'm bringing my main card back in again, and then I'm just going to fold these strips round. This acetate is actually thicker than I thought it was going to be, but anyway, it's fine. So we're going to stick this down on here like that, stick that down, and then I'm just going to peel off the backing off this piece of tape, and then stick that down flat there, and then when we open it up we can make it bend like that. And then I wanted to celebrate your special day, and what I'm going to do is I quite like the idea of it not bending with the rest and having it kind of popping off a little bit. So I can either stick it on there like that, or I could stick it somewhere else. No, I'm going to stick it on there. So I'm just literally going to put one little line of tape just on the back there, So the celebrate just stands proud a little bit, which I quite like. And then for the back, I'm just going to turn it round. And on the back, I've got an oval. And so for this one, I'm going to do it slightly differently. I'm going to take my scoreboard and take my oval. And then what we're going to do is I'm just going to put this up here and in a little bit. And I'm going to score it 1/2 inch in here. So there's 1/2 inch there. And I'm going to score it 1/2 inch here as well. So that's 1/2 inch. So from here, actually I'm going to turn it around. It makes it easier. I can see what I'm doing if I turn it around. Right, so 1/2 inch here. Like that. Okay, and I'm going to use those pieces as my little tabs. What I'm going to do though is I'm not going to bend them back. I'm actually going to bend them forwards. Like this. It's just another way of doing it. Now I did this on one of my Bendy Tower cards that I did in a class recently. Just give that a bit of an arc like that. And so let me show you the original that I did. The Bendy. So this is the Bendy Tower card. So on this topper, I actually bent them, as you can see. I bent them forward, and so they act like that. And I quite like that. I quite like the way that, you know, the effect that gives. So I'm going to do the same with this one here. Obviously, it makes I have less room to write, but anyway. So we're going to put some red tape on here, like this. So it just goes to show you can either have your tabs folding backwards, you can have them folding forwards, you can have a strip instead. You can tuck them between your paper and your base. You can really do whatever you want with them. So let's just take the backing off this and stick this down. Get it nice and central as we can. And then it just pops forward a little bit. So there's the back. Turn it round, and there's your front. I just need to give this a bit more of a coax. There we go. That's better. And so there you have your finished card. Okay, so there you have your finished card. So you've got that on the front, on the top. That's what it looks like, same from the top. And then if we turn it around, you've got all your different layers. And obviously you can fluff them up a little bit more. On the back, you've got your greeting. And again, if you wanted to, you can make that bigger. You could do a strip across. You could have a play really with this. And there's the front, and so obviously it folds flat, so you just fold it flat like that for posting, and it fits in an envelope for a 6x6 card, because you started off with a 6x6 piece of card, and that's what you've got. So the width is still 6 and the height is still 6, and it's weird because the optical illusion makes it look like it's taller, but it is actually 6 inches by 6 inches. So yeah, so that's the Bendy Hexagonal Bendi 6-way tower card. So I hope you like it. I hope you'll have a go. Please like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and we'll see you next time. Bye!